Fellas, things are happening in the world, and I think it's very necessary that we understand. President of France, Emmanuel Macron, made a speech, very much unlike him. A speech that's very battle-ready and worrisome. And I think we should listen to him. Okay, let's go.
Vous savez l'importance de la volonté au combat et vous mesurez que l'on ne peut laisser la Russie penser qu'elle peut gagner. Quel serait le lendemain pour nous, Européens? Je l'ai dit dès le début, nous ne sommes pas en guerre contre la Russie, mais notre devoir est de rendre leur victoire impossible. Une victoire russe, c'est la fin de la sécurité européenne. C'est la fin même d'une architecture de sécurité possible en Europe.
Unbelievable. We're going to play it again. Okay, let's go.
Vous savez l'importance de la volonté au combat et vous mesurez que l'on ne peut laisser la Russie penser qu'elle peut gagner.
We cannot let Russia win or let Russia think it can win the war. Where does that come from? I thought Russia was at war with Ukraine. We cannot allow Russia to think it can win the war. I don't know. Let's go.
Nous ne sommes pas en guerre contre la Russie, mais notre devoir est de rendre leur victoire impossible.
Our goal is not to fight against Russia, but to render their victory impossible. Our goal is not to fight with Russia, but it's to render their victory impossible. Isn't that fighting with somebody? I mean, if somebody's fighting another person and you are busy pulling their legs so they stumble and fall, are you not fighting them if you rendering these victories impossible? I don't know if we understand this guy well. Let's go again.
Une victoire russe, c'est la fin de la sécurité européenne. C'est la fin même d'une architecture de sécurité possible en Europe.
Wow. Victory of Russia is the end of a security in Europe. Russia's victory is the end of security in Europe. I don't know if I understand this. How has Russia be a threat to Europe? It's just a question I'm trying to understand. When did Russia attack France? When did Russia become an enemy of France? A threat to France? I'm just trying to understand. I mean, I know they had an issue with Napoleon. That's many, many years ago. But when did Russia, as it is today, become a threat to France? It's an interesting question. We know that a few days ago, Mr. Macron made a speech along the lines of they should be sending troops to Russia. To Ukraine, send troops to Ukraine, not just limit their help to material and equipment, but to send actual people into Ukraine to fight Russia. And Vladimir Putin responded very strongly about that. Let's listen.
В своей агрессивной антироссийской политике Запад перешел всякую грань. Мы постоянно слышим угрозы в адрес нашей страны, нашего народа. Уже не таясь, говорят о том, что Россия должна быть всеми средствами разгромлена на поле боя, с последующим лишением политического, экономического, культурного, вообще всякого суверенитета, с полным разграблением нашей страны. В ход пошел и ядерный шантаж. Речь идет не только о поощряемых Западом обстрелах Запорожской атомной электростанции, что грозит атомной катастрофой, но и о высказываниях некоторых высокопоставленных представителей ведущих государств НАТО о возможности и допустимости применения против России оружия массового поражения, ядерного оружия. Тем, кто позволяет себе такие заявления в отношении России, хочу напомнить, что наша страна также располагает различными средствами поражения.
I'd like to remind all these people that Russia, our country, also has different type of weapons. That's as big as a threat can get.
А по отдельным компонентам и более современными, чем у стран НАТО.
And some of them are more than NATO weapons.
И при угрозе территориальной целостности нашей страны для защиты России и нашего народа мы, безусловно, используем все имеющиеся в нашем распоряжении средства.
If you dare come into our lands in a way that is threatening, we will not hesitate to use these weapons.
Это не блеф.
And this is not a joke. Fellas, I think we heard Putin speak. I wanted to play him again. I don't think it's necessary. Whatever game these people in power are playing, I don't think it's funny. Because the bottom line is they're making decisions in closed offices. I don't know if they're consulting with you on these decisions. Let me repeat myself. They're making decisions about going to war against Russia. Are they consulting you on whether you're okay to go to war with Russia? Because, I mean, war with Russia is not like war with a rebel group or war with Iraq. This is not Iraq. Okay, this is not Syria. This is Russia, for crying out loud. They have the biggest arsenal of nuclear weapons. Why do you need all that stuff? I mean, I thought Russia had issues with Ukraine, and you can understand and justify it. They are neighboring countries with very similar history, very similar customs. They, for the most part, in some way, kind of a little bit of the same people in some instances, depending on which side of the history you want to. Yes, there are Ukrainians and Russians, but at the border, there's always going to be between two people a mixture of something. And I can understand they have issues, but they are neighbors. When does the Russia issue become a European issue? Where Europe, we know that NATO is doing a drill. NATO did a drill 2 days ago where they had about 90,000 troops coming together. 90,000 troops coming together in Poland. They say they're coming together to protect themselves against any threats that will arise. What threats? As far as we see, it doesn't look like Russia's looking to take over Europe, like Berlin, Germany did in World War II or anything like that. Doesn't look like that. I mean, Russia has an issue with Ukraine. That's what we know. When did Russia say they have an issue with NATO? Unless Ukraine is not the actual entity that's fighting Russia. Unless NATO is actually fighting Russia under the umbrella of Ukraine. Now, because they cannot progress anymore, they feel that it's failing. Now, the best way they cannot cover this anymore. Let's just come undercover because we're trying to fight beyond Ukraine. It's not working. Let's just come out so we can go all out. Unless that's the case. And I'm not saying that's the case. Unless that's the case, because I don't see anywhere where Russia said we're threatening to take over Belgium, or we're threatening to take over Holland, or we want to take over Germany. It hasn't happened. So how is it? And Ukraine is not part of NATO. So I don't see why NATO is getting involved and ready to fight Russia. Fellas, please let me understand. I know, again, to be part of NATO, you need to spend a percentage of your GDP, of your annual budget, into buying equipment, buying weapons and machines for their interoperability. So for you to operate together, you need to have the same type of equipment. If you are 30 countries coming together as NATO, you should have the same type of equipment. At least those equipment must be working in an interoperable way. They shouldn't have issues. And for that, you are obligated to put a percentage of your budget every year into NATO. And I don't know what the benefits of that. Who is the threat? The threat is against what? Who is the enemy? North Korea? I don't think so. North Korea is in North Korea. They're not trying to go to nobody's door. I mean, when last did you hear North Korea going to somebody's country, say, okay, I'm taking over. We want to change the constitution and the government? I don't remember. When last did China go to Europe or whatever, trying to take over somebody's country? I mean, I can understand Chinese stories with Taiwan and all that. That's a whole nother story. Look, they are the same people. They are the same people, whether you like it or not. They have their own history. But when last did China leave China, go to another continent or another place, trying to take over? I don't know. I mean, this is crazy. The bottom line is this, fellas, if you're watching this, they are not sending their children to war. They're not sending their child. They're not sending their sons. They're not sending their daughters or nephews or cousins or anything. They are sending you to a war that you did not declare. And I don't think anybody wants this war. I mean, just look at people at front in Ukraine, whether they're Ukrainians or Russians. They don't want this anymore. People want peace. People do want peace. So we also do know that in some ways, John Kirby of the United States separated himself from the speech of Macron. When Macron said we need to send troops in Ukraine, John Kirby said, no, America is not sending anybody. So did England. But do they really mean it? That's a question mark. Because if they don't really mean it, why is there troops or personnel of British nationality doing NATO work? Is this just because they are part of NATO, they have to do it? Or because they really see Russia as a potential upcoming threat? Once more, Emmanuel Macron make a speech that's very, very, very hot. There is a reply to it by Vladimir Putin. I want to know how you feel about this. I don't want war. I think you do not want war, especially a potential war that looks very much like a far reach. God bless.